morning. Hello. I would like to first welcome you all and express my gratitude to be part of this young panel, being the youngest amongst our panelists. Thank you, Askami, for organizing this event, and thank you for putting this important topic on the agenda. My name is Fadi Saab. I'll be having the easy task of just moderating. We have two speakers on the panel with us and three that will be joining us digitally. So let me start by welcoming Sana Khoja Laout, who is the CEO and founder of Zina. Yasser Reyes, who is the founder of Sira Coffee. Online, we have Rida Shaloud, Digital Innovation and Startup Catalyst. Christina Manzoko, Helping Ecosystems Deal Room. Sarah Ait Hamou, co-founder, Wormwork, and NISA. So my first question is going to be to all our speakers. Hi, everybody. My first question will be to all our speakers to introduce themselves and their companies. So we'll start with you.
My name is Sana, as well as he introduced me. I am originally from Morocco, Nador, and I've been raised in Barcelona. I've been in the wine industry for almost 10 years now, and I'm running a startup that was funded during the pandemic in 2020, that we were introducing the canned wine in the European, Asian, and Central America markets.
Rida?
Of course.
Yassir?
All right. So I'm Yassir Rice. I'm always introduce myself as 1/3 Moroccan, 1/3 French, and 1/3 like Catalan. I founded Sira Coffee in 2015. So we are specialty coffee roasters, and to make it easy, it's like we roast like the finest beans that we source worldwide from more than between 60 and 70 producers worldwide, and we sell them through like online and through our own shops, coffee shops. So actually, we have 31 coffee shops spread in Barcelona, Madrid, Sevilla, Valencia, San Sebastián, and Bilbao. And I think that's it.
Good. So to our online participants, Rida, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, and really pleased to be among you today. So, well, my name is Rida Shahoud, and I define myself as an entrepreneur since I started my journey as an entrepreneur from the early days of the university. And since then, I decided to work with many entrepreneurs since I like doing many things. And I'm very quickly bored if I do only one thing. So I worked advising many companies, many startups here in Morocco. And I also worked closely with corporates, counseling them and advising for their innovation and digital journeys. I also worked as head of innovation at a telco operator here in Morocco, and also advised government and the digital transition in Morocco. So here's the presentation for myself.
Thank you. Christiana, hi. You're
Hi.
on.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me today. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Christiana Manzacco. So my background is I'm Canadian, but I also have Northern Italian relatives and Dutch relatives as well. Typical Canadian, we all come from somewhere else pretty much. But now I live in Lisbon, Portugal, and I lead the government side of marketing for Deal Room. So we are a venture capital and tech industry database, and we provide data to venture capital investors and large corporations around the world on the tech industry. But then we also have a white label software solution that we sell mostly to government partners around the world that allows them to create a local database for their own local startup ecosystems. So I lead marketing for that area of the business. And prior to this role, I was working with a government fund of funds that made investments into venture capital funds. And I started in industry development with them. And then I moved over into an investment role, making investments into venture capital funds. So that's my background.
Great. And Sana?
Ah, Sarah, oui. Bonjour, donc je suis Sarah Aïdamou, franco-algérienne, donc je vis entre Paris et Alger. Donc je suis docteur de formation en sciences politiques notamment et relations internationales. Et j'ai récemment cofondé le...
On vous entend très mal.
D'accord, très bien.
Allô?
Oui.
On vous a mal entendu. Vous pouvez répéter, s'il vous plaît?
Donc je répète tout depuis le début, c'est ça?
Oui.
D'accord.
Ok. La question.
With myself. My name is Fadi Saab. I have started my career as a banker in the most boring of jobs. Decided that I couldn't take the bureaucracy, so went and started doing little things that interested me more. Started companies, failed in companies, succeeded in others. At the time, I did not know that this was called entrepreneurship. I thought it was called just courage and trying to explore the world. At the time, I did not know that there is ways to raise funds beyond family, friends, and venture capitalists. Now, we're lucky to have angel investors, we have forums, we have platforms, we have crowdfunding, digital platforms that support startups and entrepreneurs. And I find that my last venture was maybe about a year ago when I established a company in Doha that does a fintech. It's a fintech company. And I found a big difference in the culture and how people perceive new businesses, which wasn't the case when I started my first activity. And I really believe that the main developer of the startup ecosystem is just that. It's an ecosystem. The fact that now we have more and more people who are trying innovative things, who are courageous enough to risk not only their time and effort, but also all the money that they can raise to follow a dream and to pursue it till the end is enabling us to connect together and benefit from each other. So my first question to you is going to be, what are the basic challenges that you had to face in creating your startup? And today, what are the greatest successes that you see?
The biggest challenge probably was myself to deal with the fear of jumping and starting a new business during the pandemic. Secondly, were the resources. I had to find out how to motivate and inspire the investors through my dream, right? You have to convince people that you are the most important asset and they are putting their money on you. I only had a presentation when I started this business, and it was an idea of, hey guys, I only have 100 euros in my pocket. I want to do this, and this is why I want to do it. And it took me 6 months, starting in June until December, when we closed the first round. And it was like something like an important point, because I realized that somehow I created the team, even I didn't have any money to pay them. I attracted the most important suppliers. I convinced them. I attracted the team. I attracted the investors. And it was a big, big challenge because without them, I couldn't do anything. So for me was this. Make it the dream happen, or at least to start this small seed and with the right people. And I think because everything is about people and the things you create with them. So yeah, I guess was this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yasser, la misma pregunta. La pregunta era los retos, éxitos y fracasos, ¿no? Creo que el reto más grande es ejecutar el plan para ser un fundador, un financiador. Esa es la dicotomía, toda la planificación, la ejecución. Empezamos en el 2015 y era cuando estaba haciendo el máster en arquitectura. Las 3 primeras ubicaciones las construí yo con mi mejor amigo y fue muy difícil convencer en general no solo a las empresas, sino a la financiación institucional, y también tuve que convencer a los clientes de que nuestro producto era el mejor. Al final, si ahora me voy al 2022 y miro hacia atrás, los retos siempre son los mismos, pero a una escala distinta. Nuestro reto principal ahora, como una empresa que es medio de tecnología, está rompiendo esta dicotomía entre nuestro crecimiento y los beneficios. Lo podemos hacer las dos cosas. Tenemos una idea de que una compañía que cada vez se hace más grande pierde calidad. Pero si hablamos de la zona del Mediterráneo y del sur de Europa, hay un estereotipo que dice que las empresas a las que se hacen muy, muy grandes pierden calidad, pero si se va al extranjero, a Estados Unidos, al sureste de Asia, esta percepción es completamente distinta. Las mejores, aquí es lo opuesto a lo que es en el extranjero. Al final, lo que hacemos es, al mismo tiempo que estamos creciendo, estamos aumentando nuestra calidad. Ese es el mayor reto que tenemos. En cuanto a los éxitos, creo que todo tiene que ver con el equipo humano. Ahora somos 105 personas en 5 ciudades y el espíritu es el mismo que tuvimos cuando lo formamos en Barcelona con muy poquito espacio. ¿Usted es propietario de estos cafés, de estos bares? Sí, de todos. Tenemos una cadena, todo está controlado por nosotros. No vendemos nuestro café a otras coffee shops, lo hacemos todo nosotros. Tenemos una gran obsesión en controlar todos los aspectos de la compañía, ya nuestra propia aplicación, el empaquetado, el diseño. Todo está hecho por nosotros. La siguiente vez que nos veramos, nos servirán café a todos. Sí, nos encantaría, sí. Y Sana nos servirá vino después. Podremos ver ambas partes. Rida, ¿podrías comentarnos sobre los obstáculos con los que te encontraste al principio de la actividad? Sí, entiendo muy bien lo que han dicho mis 2 compañeros antes. El primer gran reto, les voy a contar una historia de cuando yo empecé. Yo fui emprendedora a los 16 en Francia, eso fue en el 2010, y desde entonces han pasado varios años, he vendido las acciones de la compañía y he vuelto a Marruecos y quería empezar otra vez. Al querer empezar otra vez me he encontrado con retos. He estado descubriendo ese sentido de emprendimiento. Yo no sabía que estaba emprendiendo, pero para mí era algo divertido. Pero lo más divertido, lo más interesante es la escala para construir el ecosistema. Para construir el ecosistema se necesita a todos los participantes, todos los jugadores, y me costó mucho encontrarlos, porque yo siempre he tenido esta obsesión de cómo puedo hacer que la compañía crezca y hacerla muy grande y hacer que el impacto sea global. Empecé a trabajar con muchos emprendedores para intentar comprender cuáles eran los retos realmente para empezar una empresa en ese contexto digital. Y los principales retos fueron tener esa mentalidad de crecimiento, saber que podíamos construir cosas en un entorno muy difícil, muy duro, y ver un problema como una oportunidad de marketing, atraer a las personas para que colaboraran, atraer todos los aspectos positivos, el personal que necesitábamos para que nuestras operaciones fueran a mayor escala y para hacer que nuestro sueño fuera realidad. Para mí, han pasado 13 años. Creo que lo que sí valoro es el hacer que las cosas ocurrieran, tener una idea y convertirla en realidad de una manera operativa, bien ejecutada, y hacer de ella un negocio beneficioso. Y también tenía el miedo del mundo corporativo. El miedo creo que es algo que es crucial para el emprendedor, porque ese miedo nos hace movernos hacia adelante, pero solo si sabemos cómo gestionar ese miedo. Siempre hablamos de las buenas cosas de ser emprendedor y la parte más negativa, porque es un viaje realmente muy largo. Creo que el miedo puede ser un motor muy positivo si sabemos manejarlo. Hoy en día sigo teniendo ese miedo y lo necesito para encontrar el tamaño adecuado de empresa. Es muy bueno para todo ser humano entrar en esa dinámica en la que el miedo sea un poquito de motor y que la persona haga todo lo posible para superarlo. Estos son los retos más grandes con los que yo me he encontrado. También necesitamos ser atrevidos y pensar en grande. Creo que hoy en día está pasando algo con los emprendedores. Siempre cuando las cosas no van bien, siempre en las crisis hay oportunidades. Y los emprendedores tienen que saber que pueden entrar en el mercado, no solo en el mercado, sino a nivel internacional. Y creo que hoy en día hay muchas oportunidades en la tecnología, en la distribución. Hemos visto hoy que es un gran tema, el tema de la distribución. Creo que necesitamos montar un sistema que pueda ir más allá de las fronteras, que sea digital, que pueda llegar a todas partes, que nos muestre que necesitamos ser más atrevidos, ir más allá, encontrar nuevas oportunidades. Gracias. Gracias por su energía y por su optimismo. Cristiano.
Well, so as an investor and as a mentor to many startups, I can say that the challenge that I observe most often is structuring their business and being able to speak about their business in such a way that it appeals to the language of investors. So I think that's very important for early stage founders, particularly to understand like what are the fundamentals that investors are looking for, and how do you talk about the business in such a way that it appeals to investors and they can go down their list and go check, 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 check. Okay, it checks off all of our boxes. And I believe that especially in the current economic climate that we're in, the way that investors invest right now is changing. In many respects, it's much more risk averse. It's looking at the fundamentals of a business, and the foundations need to be there. And then the other side of it is investors are looking for startups and scale up companies that are going to be able to weather the next economic recession, whatever that looks like. And so I know, having worked closely with investors, that right now they're changing their strategies and they're thinking about what are the industries or the specific pain points or opportunities that can be exploited and in this recession, because there's always going to be people that come out on top. And so they're looking for those kind of silver lining investments. So I would say that those are the challenges that I think the poor startups that are starting right now and scale up companies have in front of them. But I also think that there are exciting challenges that can be met with strength and with solid planning.
I'm happy that you mentioned fundamentalists, because at one moment in time, investors were going all over the place and they were making crazy bets, not relying on any fundamental basis, which really led to bubbles. And as Sana was mentioning, an investor invests in the person first and the product second. And I think with experience, they realized that yes, we should definitely invest in the person. We should believe in the ability of that entrepreneur to create a vision, have a dream, and work to execute that. But the business has to have its own real foundations, and it should be built on real solid criteria. Not everything flies. And this bigger fool theory that we see a lot of, I don't know, let me remind you what the bigger fool theory is, that if I'm a fool to buy this glass of water for $10 when it's really worth $1, it doesn't matter, because I will find a bigger fool who would buy it from me at 15, and so on and so forth, until there's the last fool who ends up buying the glass of water at $50 and there's nobody to buy it from him at $51. So it goes back down to its real value. And I think we have seen this in the marketplace, and investors have realized that they really have to go back to fundamentals. Thanks for pointing that out. Sarah, can you please tell us a little bit more about WOMER?
Yes, of course. I hope you can hear me now well. All right, very well. Let me introduce myself. I'm French, Algerian. I have a doctorate in political science, and I've been an entrepreneur for some years now. And I was involved in the first female incubator in Algeria. The goal of this incubator is to reduce the gaps between women and men in entrepreneurship, innovation, and the digital industry. In addition to this incubator, we created a network of female investors, female entrepreneurs who want to invest in other female entrepreneurs, and another network of the Maghrebi diaspora in France, which is based in Marseille. That's an overview. As far as the difficulties, we want to set up a second co-working space when we did that, it was right before COVID. It was a little difficult to open up one day and have to close it the next day. But I think I think that perseverance and resilience are undeniable skills for an entrepreneur in order to carry forward your company and to remain on the market. And with regards to financing, we know that women have greater difficulties in fundraising. That's why it's very important to support women in fundraising and have better access to funding. That's an overview. Well, I would say that there is a link between women, which is women feel more comfortable. At the end of the day, we are an Algerian society, which is very traditional. It's true that women among themselves trust each other more, and that allows them to activate a network. That was very important for us because we observed that women lacked networks because they didn't connect, they didn't network enough. This was the opportunity for them to connect and to shuffle business opportunities, investment opportunities among themselves. It creates a lot more links than pure investment. And there's a lot of experience and expertise sharing, a lot of mentoring. It goes beyond simple investment. It's true that there are linkages which mean that we are more comfortable among other women, and there's a willingness to help each other out, and there is less concerns among women than you might have between women and men. And above all, what's important is the model role. Women who are investing in other women are an inspiration for the newcomers. They're role models. It's important to see that energy level. She made it, so I can make it. Yeah, that's the role of inspiration. That's what's most important, to show that it's possible. I can make it if she made it.
Ha mencionado el networking, establecer contactos. La mayoría de los startups tienen el mismo problema, es la accesibilidad, el acceso a la financiación, a los mercados, al talento, a la escalabilidad, a la accesibilidad. Y la mejor forma de superar este gran obstáculo es a través del networking, a través de establecer redes y contactos. Los ecosistemas se han desarrollado de una manera donde tenemos un mecanismo eficaz para permitir esta accesibilidad. Estamos en una ciudad pequeña, en Barcelona, pero estamos en Ascame, estamos en el Mediterráneo, y el Mediterráneo es como una puerta al mundo. Mi pregunta va a ser la misma para todos. ¿Cómo creen que el ecosistema de startups mediterráneo les ha ayudado a ustedes o les va a ayudar en el futuro para avanzar? ¿Creen que se ha desarrollado lo suficiente? ¿Creen que es práctico utilizarlo, que es eficiente? Y si no lo es, ¿qué querrían, qué desearían ustedes para que se desarrollaran, para que este ecosistema les ayudara más? Sana, podemos empezar contigo. En mi caso, porque estamos en la agricultura, ser mediterráneo significa calidad. Sara. En mi caso, ser del Mediterráneo significa calidad y tenemos mucha suerte porque tenemos acceso a todos los alimentos a los que tenemos acceso, las bebidas a las que tenemos acceso. Por lo tanto, llevar al mundo un vino de alta calidad español, por ejemplo, ha sido fácil para nosotros. Sí, porque es muy barato. Es uno de los mercados mejores y más baratos en todo el mundo. Supone un reto, pero tenemos que convencernos de que tenemos un producto de muy buena calidad en este país, porque la gente del extranjero viene aquí a España, o cuando visitas otros países y dices, yo soy española, dicen, oh, tenéis jamón, las tapas que son increíbles, la comida muy buena. Nosotros somos máxima calidad, calidad premium en todo el mundo. La gente compra nuestro aceite de oliva, nuestra comida. La gente paga mucho por nuestros productos principales. Por lo tanto, en mi caso, estar en el Mediterráneo ha sido positivo. Pero respecto al emprendimiento, es verdad que quizá no estemos tan avanzados como en Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, donde seguramente tendría más acceso a financiación, talento o el mercado en sí, porque allí ayudan mucho a los emprendedores en Estados Unidos cuando empiezan sus negocios. Y aquí todavía tenemos esta cultura de, no sé en vuestros países, pero yo aquí me siento en España como que la gente está esperando que fracases todo el rato. Y tenemos esta cultura en la que me preguntan, hey, Hannah, ¿cómo va el negocio? Y esperan que digas, mal, me va mal. Y cuando hablo con otras personas en el extranjero, dicen, eres muy valiente, ve a por ello, adelante. Realmente te facilitan todo para que lo consigas, pero en España no tenemos esta cultura. Yo soy de Marruecos. En Marruecos la gente también espera que fracases y eso no ayuda. Y si eres una mujer, y en mi caso, yo se supone que me tenía que casar y tener hijos. Tengo 25 años y las personas decían, oh, pobre Sana, ¿qué está haciendo? Este no es tu trabajo, Sana. Tendrías que casarte y tener hijos. Te estás haciendo vieja. Y eso no ayuda. Un día me gustaría tener una familia, pero ahora mis bebés son esta empresa. He estudiado muchísimo, he trabajado muchísimo. Por lo tanto, espero que el mundo deje de decir a las personas qué es lo que tienen que hacer. Esta es la cultura que tenemos en el Mediterráneo. Nos dicen lo que tienen que hacer. No animamos a las mujeres y hay que dejar de hacer eso. Estoy segura de que Sara estará de acuerdo contigo con esta percepción que se tiene con las mujeres que se dedican a los negocios, sobre todo cuando son jóvenes, más agresivas, tienen éxito. Dicen, en primer lugar, porque son mujeres, luego porque son jóvenes y guapas, luego porque son exitosas. Tenemos que cambiar esa mentalidad.
I agree completely with this. And that's part of the Mediterranean culture because what Sana said, we also encounter in Algeria. I think this is a cultural aspect of the Mediterranean. Yep. You can continue. Go ahead.
Mediterranean as a hub in going accessible to.
So it's clear that in terms of valuation, when raising funds, the more you go in the north, the less you will dilute yourself. So this is pretty clear. But at the end, we are in this middle point where the ecosystem. I mean, I can speak about Barcelona because this is the ecosystem I know the most in terms of accessibility. The thing is, my main mentors are Bernat and Jordi, the founders of Factorial, that are these latest unicorn in Barcelona, where they founded the company, and the main principle of founding it was basing the company in Barcelona as Glovo did. So the thing is that there's this confusing situation where I accept and we accept that our situation in this area is not the best one, but at the same time we're like complaining of building the ecosystem. So the thing is that I agree that the situation is better in terms of ideas, philosophy, of even like failure, of effort, of building a company instead of trying things instead of just finding like a normal job. But it's like much better than if you go like more in the south. So it's always about trying to squeeze the best of each of the situations, to be honest. Now in our last round, for example, like with the same pitch, you go in Paris and you can probably like double the valuation only because how business is seen over there. And maybe you can triple the valuation if you go to London and so on. But it's how you see the ecosystem growing around you and how much you want to be part of it, to be honest. So it's not, I mean, I'm not giving like a clear answer, so it's a wide response.
But today, I mean, the mere fact that you are in a globalized economy, doesn't matter where you're from, exactly. It doesn't matter where your valuation is not about where you're established, your valuation is about where you sell. So the world is your marketplace, and it doesn't matter. I don't agree that the valuation of a company based in London or in Paris is higher than based in Spain or in Portugal. I think it's what you do with your company and to what effect, to what extent you're efficient in using the ecosystem that's around you. I'll give you an example. I mean, you and Sana should collaborate. She gets people drunk, then they drink more coffee in the morning to get over, and then they realize that when they're up and they need to relax, so they drink more wine. Okay. So this is how the ecosystem can support each other.
I was not telling on where the company is based, but who you have like in front of you. If you have like a BA from France or a BA of Spanish, valuation will go down if you go in Spanish. Only about like the mentality that it goes, but it's not a bad thing. It depends on who you want like to be around you. That's it.
I agree.
And maybe the valuation is about the value of the market you are selling to. Like in my case yesterday, I was talking to an investor.
Ayer hablaba con un inversor y me dijo, ¿estás haciendo esta evaluación de tu empresa? Y yo dije, pues claro, estoy en 12 países. No es sobre las cantidades de unidades que vendo, es porque he abierto 12 empresas en 12 países. ¿Lo puede hacer usted? Muchas más veces es el valor del mercado. Estamos vendiendo en Barcelona. Hay que tener en cuenta que es más, por ejemplo, en tu caso, es más un negocio global, local que global. Pero no es lo mismo que tener un negocio que está en varios países, como es en mi caso. No sé cómo funciona la evaluación, porque a veces cuando creas el valor de tu compañía, está basado en qué se basa, en qué criterios. Yo soy un banquero en inversiones. La evaluación, cuando yo empecé, se basaba en el rendimiento histórico. Te preguntaban, te midían tu rendimiento de hace 5 años, 7 años y lo extrapolaban para ver su situación actual. Ahora encontramos empresas que tienen 0 rendimiento, 0 actividad, que todavía no tienen beneficios, pero que se valoran en cientos de millones, porque las evaluaciones ahora se basan en el potencial. ¿Qué es lo que se puede hacer con este producto, con este equipo, con estas ideas, con estos equipos, las herramientas? Y esto es el motor de las evaluaciones. Las evaluaciones cada vez tienen más que ver con ese éxito, con lo que y con la finalización. ¿Cuántas piezas de su negocio podría usted vender en el futuro a otras empresas? Por lo tanto, yo quiero entrar en el valor más bajo para que luego estas acciones aumenten en el futuro. Es muy difícil establecer los criterios que conforman la evaluación. Es como comercializas tus productos, cómo los empaquetas, cómo demuestras tu habilidad de tener éxito, porque la gente cree en tu historia, cree en lo que les vendes más de lo que has hecho hasta la fecha. Esta cultura del fracaso que tenemos, lo que habías comentado tú antes, una cosa importante, el primer consejo que un inversor me dio fue: olvídate del EBITDA y solo mira el flujo de caja. Creo que esto es algo que está en España muy arraigado, porque si se oyen muchas historias de fracaso, todo el mundo te dice vas a fracasar, al final tus ojos deben centrarse en el flujo de caja, porque el EBITDA es lo más falso en lo que podemos centrarnos. Siempre el flujo de caja. Cristiana, tú ves a más inversores que muchos de nosotros. Es interesante saber tu opinión sobre cómo se hacen las evaluaciones y cómo el área geográfica de donde es la empresa afecta a esa evaluación. Sí, es un tema muy complejo. Yo diría que la zona geográfica tiene mucho que ver con la evaluación y lo vemos esto lo vemos en América del Norte. Es una tendencia bastante evidente. Las startups a veces empiezan en pequeños ecosistemas y acaban en grandes ecosistemas como Silicon Valley, Boston, Nueva York. Y las evaluaciones que consiguen son mucho más elevadas de lo que recibirían en los pueblecitos de donde provienen. Esto tiene que ver mucho con el apetito de los inversores en ese ecosistema en particular. Ven cuánto capital tienen disponible, que suele ser mucho más alto en los ecosistemas grandes que en los pequeños. Y también tiene que ver como el apetito por el riesgo, lo grande que son sus carteras de productos, si se quieren arriesgar a pagar más, y los angel investors. Hay muchos factores, pero sí que he visto esta tendencia muchas veces. Puede ser ventajosa para una startup que entra en un ecosistema porque proporciona un cierto nivel de credibilidad, acceso a las redes, a la asesoría, a la mentoría. Pero también hemos visto cuando una startup vuelve a su propio ecosistema, a su propia ciudad o pueblo, y ahí la situación puede ser la contraria, donde los inversores locales no quieren invertir con una evaluación más baja que obtienen. Es complicado. Creo que depende de dónde se quiere llevar uno la empresa. Si es una empresa española en España, el capital que se necesitaría es muy diferente que el capital que se necesitaría si se intentara crear esa compañía en un sitio como Nueva York o Londres o Silicon Valley. Por lo tanto, la baja evaluación, cuando hay bajas evaluaciones, los inversores toman más riesgo, pero puede ser una estrategia el quedarse en su propio país.
And for you about valuation, you've mentioned the solidarity that brings women together. And that's sort of a unique advantage that we see in ethnic groups and, of course, in all women companies. The value of that solidarity, do you think it's an added advantage on
I wouldn't say it's a better value, but I'd say it's somewhat quite different because as women, it functions differently. Perhaps we have greater emotional intelligence. It's true that we don't have enough perspective yet to be able to compare men and women investors regarding valuations. But what we can, our initial take is that linkage and that affinity, which are created more easily among women, help, but we don't have enough perspective to be able to talk about a greater or lesser valuation.
The financial capabilities of men investors, and that might affect the demand side, but this is changing.
You can say that, yes. That's absolutely true. But the fact that women get along better is what's going to give women financial power. That's why it was so important for me to create such a network. It's the importance of supporting each other and empowering each other to be able to later have an investment capacity which is as substantial as that of men. That's not the case now.
You're in the digital innovation startups and catalysts. So, what's your take on that?
I have many takes on that. First off, you're talking about access. I think market access is the job of an entrepreneur. He has to find the pieces and make the puzzle in order to access the market. Except if we talk about public markets and very regulated markets, so then we're talking about regulation, and it's quite very different. And it needs more work and more plaidoyer in order to make things move forward and bring more access. I will maybe talk about access to talents. I think that's something very, very important, and there is a big stress. There is a big stress today in talents, especially when we're talking to digital savvy and digital experienced talents. And there is today we're living a big competition on that field. I mean, startups today are not competitive to attract the very bright the investments, the adequate investments in order to give the right compensations. We are seeing a big competition from other countries who are coming to our markets and taking the talents. And since we are not competitive, I think the maths are very quickly done. So I think, and it has a connection with the valuations and access to funding. I think there is a problem of trust with the investors in our markets, and we are seeking validations from like more developed ecosystems like the Silicon Valley or others. And if you raise at some valuation in those markets, then automatically you're sure to have the right access to funding in your home country. And I think this is a bit of a problem that we need to solve very quickly, because if we want to be global and build like global champions from our region, the Mediterranean region, so we need to fix that, because of course valuation are different dependent on which geography we are building the company from. Maybe the other thing that I will comment is the cultural. a theory on that. It takes 3 years, Sana, to avoid that problem, because the first year, the first day of your company, people would say, "Wow, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Go get a job and be sane." But you know, you're fighting. Things are a bit messy. The second year, people are saying, "So how is it going?" You say, "Yeah, you know, there's ups and downs." And in the third year, things start like fitting, and the market starts responding to the product. And people who were waiting for you to fail, they will change, and they will start saying things like, "Hey, Sana, how are you doing? How is the business?" You will say, "Oh yeah, you know, it starts growing and stuff." And they will say, "Wow, I'm really proud of you." Because there is also this question of fear again. They fear for you, but then if you succeed, they are really happy for you. And this is the problem that makes this chicken egg problem, because if you want to make like many companies who are building many jobs, you need many entrepreneurs, but you need to support those entrepreneurs. So I mean, this cultural thing, the get for it, and they start building things because they know it's just a matter of time. Now, a last point, I'm just giving random ideas, but there is a bit of connection there. When we're talking about the region, the Mediterranean region, I just would like to separate between the North region and the Southeast region, because the dynamics are very different. And if we want really to build an ecosystem, and I'm bridging there with the access, we need to bridge the North with the South, because today, if you are based in Barcelona and you want to expand, you will expand to a whole wide European market, right? And if you are a Moroccan-based or Algerian-based or Tunisian-based company, you will think about Africa or the Middle East region. And I think that there are opportunities where we can also think from the South to the North, but we need to build those bridges and create those connections between investors, between universities, between, I mean, all the key players within the ecosystem. It's very important to build those bridges and say that we can build successful European companies that expand into African continent, but it's also true in the other way around. And for that, we need to build that trust and also bring those connections between the investors, so we can, you know, as entrepreneurs, raise on the best valuation.
Very important, correct. This is why we have initiatives like MW22. This is why we have organizations like Ascami, who are doing this bridging between different cultures, different geographies. And although we talk about the Mediterranean, but in essence, we see that we're going way beyond. So the Mediterranean is all becoming not only the marketplace, but an origin to wider markets globally. You mentioned sustainability, and that brings back the point about cash flow. The only way you can be sustainable for a startup is you have enough cash flow to really make you cover your next, thank you, to cover your next requirement, to pay salaries, to pay your suppliers, to get another year underneath your belt before investors stand up and take notice. So yes, sustainability is a major obstacle, and having access to finance, access to cash, is a way to overcome that. And probably the usage of economies of scale, the usage of incubators, accelerators, hubs, platforms, is the best way to reduce your cost in getting those services that you need, and to increase your network in reaching out to people that normally you don't have within your data bank. These are interesting times for startups. Let me at this point take some questions.
Ahora, si tienen alguna pregunta en el público, por favor no duden en preguntar. pueden hacer preguntas o también, si lo prefieren, pueden hacer algún comentario. ¿Es demasiado pronto en la mañana o a lo mejor es que hemos hecho un trabajo fantástico y no hay preguntas? Hola a todos. Tengo una pregunta.
Can tell us the phases, the 1, 2, 3, the phases in the timeline when you get the first step, and then where are you now? Like, where are the problems, like in a synthesis, a bit synthesis of that timeline.
Well, the first phase is having coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So let's start with you.
I mean, you want to talk about problems? I mean, we can have like a 3-4 hour chat if you want later. So in terms of milestone about the company, you mean? Milestones like in terms of...
Yeah, growth activity phases of
course.
startup.
So I built the first coffee shop in Calle Siracusa number 13 in Barcelona. That's why the name Sira, from Sira Coffee. This first coffee shop was based on with intuition and with my best friend, which is like an architect too. So we built it like in 10 days. We opened, it was like a massive success, but it was too small. So we moved it around the corner. We kept that name. 2 years after, a couple of business angels just knocked the door and wanted like to open another. And then I built like a super ambitious business plan that was all theoretical. Then COVID came. We opened 4 shops. And we saw like this, the main problem was cash flow. We talked about sustainability, and our main goal here was to make like a sustainable company beyond like plastic straws or going like greener. Sustainability for us was to pay like fair prices for all our producers right in time. Working capital here was key. What I mean working capital is we are always buying coffee from here to 6 months ahead. So at the end, like the producer, if we buy them like the whole lot of coffees, the fairer way of doing it is paying this coffee upfront for them, so they can like just invest in their families. So this for us is sustainability, and this is based on growth purely. So as much as we grow, as much as we can just buy better coffees on better conditions. So here working capital, that was like super positive, like in terms of a healthy company, technically should be like a negative working capital. Here it was like super positive because we're like just advancing money. And then to this you have to add like capex of each shop, even being like quite cheap shops in terms of costs. Our ambition was big, so that's why we did like 4 funding rounds with mainly business angels, successful founders, as founders of Glovo, Jumia, etc. And then we did like a bigger round last year with venture debt. And now we have 27 coffee shops around Spain, 10 more under construction, and we'll end up the year with at least 45 coffee shops in Spain, and next year we will go to France. That's a little bit all.
Do you have plans for an IPO, for a listing on the stock exchange?
So this is one of our lead investor is also an investor in Wallbox that did like a SPAC last year. It's one of the biggest operation last year, and this is like a pretty interesting question. I don't think Sira is a product to IPO, to be honest. Our main goal is, I mean, the work Starbucks, Luckin Coffee, and the Costa is doing is awesome, but we are just like a different product. So our goal is to be like one flagship coffee shop per neighborhood. So we are growing one neighborhood per time. So it's not doing like as Starbucks did like in New York, having like between 19 and 20 coffee shops and outlets per neighborhood. We are the reference of good coffee per district.
And the exit plan for your investors is what, a trade sale? How do they see their exit from the investment?
We don't really talk about exit plans openly, to be honest. But of course, we saw super interesting operations in the food and beverage like market, as Blue Bottle did with Nestlé in 2015, or as Campos in Australia did with GDE. So there's like a huge interest in specialty coffee nowadays. Like it's the third big wave of coffee. So I think like industrials, big brands, etc., will have like an increased like interest. So technically, like an exit in this sector is being bought with an industrial that can like push this capex, push this working capital, but maintaining really the quality without really being involved in this. At the end, we touch like a kind of sector of target that these big corporate brands cannot really do.
Who else would like to comment from our speakers on the phases of startups, either specifically relating to your experience or in general?
In my case, it is my third year, so Rita, I guess people are happy for me. In my case, in the first year was all about defining who I am and checking if the market was willing to pay my value proposition. I did everything in the same stage. Some entrepreneurs, they start the idea, they raise the money, and then they say, hey, I need this money to validate my business or my product. In my case, I didn't want to raise any penny, any euro, without making sure that there was a market there. So that was my first stage, and defining very, very well who I was, who I am, and why I'm burning. Am I like providing something better to the world? It's my existence going to change for the positive in this world? Why am I existing, right? Sometimes you think that some people would never be alive, right?
Correct.
Like, you don't need to be alive, man. So stop it. So sometimes with some companies, we have the same feeling, like this company is not worth it to be alive. And I think as an entrepreneurs, we have to build a better future. We are a reference for the new generations coming. So every step we make is going to make the change. And I think the change for the better is it's our
differentiating factor.
See, an obligation, I think. So that was my first step. Secondly, I wanted to, with this money, to validate the channels. What is the biggest ROI, right? But not only for the money, it is also about the visibility, the position that you want to make in the world with your company, right? Who you want to become, how do you want to be seen? How do I envision Zina in the next 25 years? What am I changing in the world? What is my existing going to make in this industry? And in the third stage where we are now expanding. We are opening in different countries. And what's next, it's about consolidating this growth, probably with our own facility, with our own house, where once you have the right market validated, the right channel, and you had the chance to attract the right team, right? The right talent, because it is very hard to get access to the money, the cash that you need, but also because you don't have the cash that your competitors have to maintain the talent that you love to maintain. Like today, one of my best members in the team, she's leaving me. I am so sad. I really want to cry all day. But there is nothing you can do sometimes. It is just like that you don't have the resources to become or to do whatever you would like to do. It is just like you are a tiny company, you have a big purpose, and you try with very little things, make big things. And yeah, that's it.
How many rounds of funding did you go through?
The first one was in 2020. It was just between friends and family.
Family and friends.
In 21, we were running out of cash, and of course, and I got an ENISA. You know the ENISA, the funds from the European government, that they co-invest with you. So if you guys, you have any company in Spain and you raised money, I really, really recommend you to go to ENISA.
Matchmaking funding.
Sí, and very helpful for startups. I think it's the best funding line that we have here access to. And then this year we are raising, we just opened the second round. So this is the second round, yeah.
Excellent. Cristiano, do you find that startups are always running for funding? They are on a regular fundraising program?
Left.
He left? He's probably funding a startup. Okay. Do you have any comments for the question about the phases? Rida or Sarah?
I think the first thing that you need to do is to attract the right people around you. I mean, beside talents, you need also, I really like the idea of the board of advisors. You know, when you only have your idea, your pitch deck, and you are working in industry, I think it's very important to get like precise advisory, because we are, I don't know if it happens for you guys, but we are sometimes bad advisors for ourselves. So we need to exchange, especially if we are a solo founder, we need to exchange ideas and confront them and challenge them with people from the industry. And sometimes it helps in many ways. First, it's to define your positioning within the value chain of your industry. Second, it will definitely connect you to the right funding or the right talent in order to build your value proposition and start confronting it with the reality of the ground. And it's pretty much it. I mean, if you start, get surrounded by the right people, and don't be afraid to knock doors. I mean, everyone is seeking today to make good investments. So if you define yourself as a good investment, you will attract the right investors and the right people around you. Just for instance, just with an idea and a pitch deck, I could raise, even in Morocco, something around 150K euros. And I will quote you, Mr. Moderator, we live in extraordinary times for startups in the region, because I think 5 years ago, it's been impossible to raise such amount of pre-seed funding just with an idea.
Bravo, good for you. Actually, the point of access to talent is very important in terms of team, employees, management. And access to mentorship on the other side is also very important in creating an advisory board of directors, getting the right angel investor with you, not only institutional investor. Because what an angel investor brings to the company is way more valuable than cash. And now we're seeing companies valuing the presence of an angel investor among their investor group, and creating more and more relations with mentors or with advisory board members. And I think this is a very good way to develop your own company-focused ecosystem and benefit from this going forward.
Yeah, going to the smart money.
Yeah. Sarah, we haven't heard from you. Do you think that women are willing to mentor?
Of course. I think I didn't emphasize this recently, but when I was talking about role models, it's very important for us. This relationship, as you were saying, money is not what is most important. Beyond money, what's most important is to serve as a role model, to share one's knowledge and expertise. That's the role. Those are the roles of business angels. We try to match entrepreneurs with business angels who are working in the same area, so that these women can benefit from expertise in their own domain. Beyond money, we ask for mentoring, experience, and expertise sharing. That's what we value much more than a simple investment. And as is known in Algeria, there are not enough role models. It's always the same people you find everywhere. And that's why we're truly trying to give these people visibility. There are very few of them. And when women see other women who are successful, they themselves will become role models and investors, and it's a virtuous cycle.
Events like this in Meda Week and being part of organizations like Ascami and like-minded associations is important, because you go beyond the geographic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just want to add. Go ahead. I just wanted to add that we always bring our managers, in Africa to events like this. We bring our participants to all our activities. The goal is to give these women national, regional, and international visibility. Hence, the importance of an event such as today's. Thank you.
Audience? Maybe I will ask you for a takeaway. What would you like to leave as a word of advice, as a short recommendation for people who see you as a role model and want to do the same?
This is my third company. And when I think why this time worked and it didn't work in the two before, which for me were needed to exist in order to have this one successful, it was mostly because when I started this business, I didn't have anything to lose. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything. And I was not fear of losing something, right? Sometimes you start a business and you have your job. I don't want to quit my job. I have a fixed salary. I feel like secure. Or maybe you have, I don't know, your family. Your kids are very small. And you're like, oh, I can't leave my family now, because when you start a business, it's 24/7. There are no holidays or weekends or nights. There is nothing. Like, your life becomes, at least in the first 3 years, you have to be very, very serious with this and committed. Secondly, I committed with myself. I was, you know what? Doesn't matter what happened, but I'm going to be just like focused and committed with this project. I'm not going to quit. And you have to tell yourself. And there are so many days that you are like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm closing the company.
Excuse the language, of course.
I'm so sorry. I'm like closing the company. I can't deal with this anymore. You have so many days that you could like probably just to disappear. Go to Bali and close your phone and say, you know what? I don't want to hurt anyone else anymore. But no, you have to be committed, because you had
perseverance.
And the people who invested on you, right? These investors, and I told them last week, and I told them, like, this year has been a nightmare for me. I had a horrible year. First year was bad. Second year, but this year has been like oh my God, I had to fire my brother. He was working with me, and it was horrible. Many people came, they left, many instability. And I told them, if it wasn't for you, I could close the company. And sometimes you have to be committed, and I'm happy that I never did it. But you go to the ups and downs, right? And secondly, and third, in the third position, I could say like, don't listen to people. Don't listen to the rejection. Because most of the time, when we ask for advice, you know whatever you want to do. You have to listen to yourself. And I think this is the only company I really listened to myself, to my gut, and I didn't listen to people. So I could say that from my side.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to listen to the team because they tell me we ran out of time. But you gave very important advice, which is perseverance, which is, believe in yourself, believe in what you have done, and keep at it until you succeed. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for our panelists, and thank you for the audience. I hope this was an interesting session. I certainly learned a lot, and I look forward to sharing in your success. Goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you. Looking forward to meeting in person. Bye.
Thank you.